LowRes Wonderland.
You know, at first I was just blown away by the chance, the opportunity, the challenge of making this film, and I went into it like it was a regular film, like another production of mine, not thinking too much about the long-term effects, what it would mean to society if it was ever discovered.
Famed filmmaker Stanley Kubrick is known above all else for his meticulous style of directing and the impressive body of work that came as a direct result of it. To this day, 2001: A Space Odyssey remains a gem in Kubrick's filmography. Many consider it to be the gold standard of the science fiction genre. Kubrick's depictions of space and time remain some of the most authentic captured in cinema, even in spite of being shot in 1968. It's a true testament to Kubrick and his team that the film and its visuals have aged like wine, and for that reason it is also believed by many within the conspiracy minds that Stanley Kubrick was approached during post-production on 2001 to assist NASA in forging the Apollo 11 moon landing. Now, let's stop right there for a moment because I know. If you're coming into this fresh, you likely have a lot of questions, and admittedly, as far as conspiracies go, this one is full of leaps and bounds. For starters, you need to buy into the idea that the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, which brought astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the moon, was nothing more than a ruse. So why would the Apollo 11 moon landing be faked? There are many different thoughts as to why. Some believe it was an attempt to cover up the more negative footage coming out about the Vietnam War, though the most prominent theory seems to be assurance in outdoing the Russians.
We have called upon one of the foremost exponents of space travel, Dr. Werner von Braun.
Now here's a model my design for a 4-stage orbital rocket ship. It will be dropped when its speed has reached 14,300 miles per hour.
The United States was in the middle of a space race with the Soviet Union, and coming up with artificial footage, whether the overall end goal was to even reach the moon or not, would obviously result in better PR for America and their space program. If you're the United States government, who do you hire to perform such a task? Who do you trust to secure results? Why, none other than the greatest visualist in the history of film. But if we are to believe that the Apollo 11 landing was faked and that Kubrick had a hand in producing it, why would he do such a thing? In 1969, Kubrick was at the height of his career. He was well respected by his peers in the industry and would have little to gain from taking NASA up on such an offer. Well, an article published in 1995, the Usenet titled "Stanley Kubrick and the Moon Hoax" points to Kubrick's brother Raoul and his involvement in the American Communist Party. Raoul Kubrick was allegedly one of the leaders of said movement, and NASA aimed to blackmail Stanley into shooting the moon landing with this development. However, there wasn't and has never been a Raoul Kubrick. The story was a satirical piece published to the alternative humor section of Usenet's news group, but that didn't stop conspiracy theorists from running with the idea and using it as evidence of Kubrick's involvement. If we are to assume that the Apollo 11 landing was fake, and that Kubrick was the master behind it, this is clearly not sufficient evidence. Beyond that, there is no real way to know what could have drawn Kubrick to such a dangerous task. So now we move on to how. How did they manage to successfully dupe the entire world into believing that we landed on the moon? With Kubrick involved, that especially must not have been an easy feat given Kubrick's lack of desire to leave the UK or participate in any kind of travel that would require flight.
He figured that he knew enough about it to know that it was extremely dangerous. But, we'd say, well, Stanley, the facts are that, much more dangerous crossing the high street than flying in a jumbo jet, but he wouldn't hear of it.
So, allegedly, NASA set up a studio in England for Kubrick and a skeleton crew of leftovers from 2001 to shoot in.
And about 2 or 3 or maybe 4 easy phases can bring you to
The result is what was broadcast to millions of people in 1969. Cut to 1980. A guilt-ridden Kubrick looks at adapting Stephen King's seminal novel The Shining as a means to relieve himself of the burden of keeping this secret. Kubrick had supposedly dropped hints throughout the film, such as Danny wearing a NASA sweater, and that's about it. That didn't stop others fascinated with this theory from creating their own interpretations of Jack, Danny, Wendy, the Overlook, and everything in between. Many believe that the hotel itself represents America and that Stuart Ullman is the film's embodiment of John F. Kennedy. But there are no hard facts to back any of this up. They are merely viewer-constructed allusions to 1960s America. One of these theories is laid out in the documentary Room 237, along with a handful of other unrelated ideas as to what The Shining may truly be about.
My interpretation of The Shining is that there's many levels to this film. This is like three-dimensional chess, and he's trying to tell us several stories that appear to be separate, but actually are not.
The theory with the most credence to it is that of Kubrick using his manuscript to communicate a theme of Native American genocide. There is evidence to back this particular theory up, and it is possible that some of the blips to appear in the film as a potential result of this have muddied the waters for the Kubrick moon landing crowd. The last piece of evidence that Kubrick had a hand in staging the Apollo 11 mission comes in the form of a videotape. The interview that I played at the start of this deconstruction, featuring a man who, at best, vaguely resembles the late Stanley Kubrick, was released online in 2015.
Anyone who has ever been privileged to direct a film also knows that although it can be like trying to write War and Peace in a bumper car in an amusement park, when you finally get it right, there are not many joys in life that can equal the feeling.
Yeah, it was fake.
Wait, okay. And I thought, I have written down, and I thought you agreed to talk about Barry Lyndon, you agreed to talk about The Killing, Clockwork Orange. I mean, we're going to cover all these films, and I hope we still can, but what you're telling me, is this, because I think it would make the news if you're telling me now for the first time, and why me? Why not CNN? Or
what? The rumors were true.
Okay, well, I obviously want to understand what the hell what you're talking about here. Okay, but why are you telling me? I'm a nobody. Like,
the moon landings were fake.
In spite of sounding nothing like Kubrick and people missing the fact that for a 1999 interview, Kubrick does not appear to look anything like his would-have-been deteriorating self at the end of his life, this hoax caught on and was repopulated by a number of websites. At the end of the day, it appears that Kubrick helping NASA fake the moon landing is an incredibly fun theory to believe. But there is no substantial truth to the rumor. Besides, it's obvious that NASA would have brought in Jodorowsky to fake the moon landing because that would have been way cooler. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you think I didn't do a sufficient job of debunking this theory, give it a thumbs down and also comment below. You guys voted, and the next deconstruction is going to be on Eyes Wide Shut. That is going to drop soon, so we're not done with Kubrick just yet. If you're interested in checking out additional content that is exclusive to people funding the channel, consider going to patreon.com/LowRes and donating $1 or $2. We've also got a Discord chat up and running, so if you want to talk to people who are into the same demented shit as yourself, go there! Thanks again for watching.